I just want to remind to myself and to all of you that I love you, church, and thank you for that. It's mutual. Thank you for your love, and it's a big pleasure and honor to be pastor of this church. And today, I just want to continue to share, with you, to think on this topic of stewardship, or how to be a manager of your life. Because when we talk about God, it is His nature to be a steward. He is a steward. God develops, God manages everything. That's why we have very good order in spiritual and physical world as well. Only because everything obeys the law, nature, law of nature or the spirit, we still alive. We can trust that I can walk. I can trust that I will not fall, or I will not fly to the space or something like this. I know that because everything obeys the law, I'm still alive. And it's because of God. God, He is God of order. God likes, or it's His nature to develop, it's His nature to keep everything safe, to be a steward. And because we are bearer of His image, we are bearer of image of God, this is something God placed in us to be His, as a part to be His image. He wants us to be stewards of our lives. And I don't know if you was here in the church last Sunday. We were talking about marriage, husbands and wives. And I just want to tell you, just to remind that the best place where you can develop image of God is family, is marriage. Because when we read Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, God said, let's create. And it's very important because before we read God said, it's just God in He's alone, He's not talking to anybody. But in verse 26, God said He's talking to somebody. And we know about the Trinity, God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. When we talk about God, there is something always present in God. And we talk about relationship. God's image is not full without relationship. To be in God's image means not just about character, not just about to be creative, to have will, to have feelings, emotions, or to have knowledge, mind. It's also about relationship. And that's why we read in verse 27, God created man in His image, man and woman together. That's why God looks in chapter 2, verse 18, as I remember, He looks at Adam and He said, something is not right. Adam is alone. He needs helper. He needs somebody next to him who will help him to develop this image of God. Because as soon as I alone, let's think I am on a desolated island, right? There is no other people. I have no idea about my character, because my character appears in the relationship. You can look at me it's still I'm just silent. You have no idea who am I, nothing about my accent. I look like a regular person. As soon as I start talking to you, you start to see who I am. God said you need somebody next to you in the relationship with whom you will discover your image, or God's image in you, and this somebody will stick to you forever with this purpose, to help you to develop, and you help each other to develop this image of God. That's why we have marriage, and that's why divorce is not an option at all. It's not an option, period. Because as long as you have option to divorce, you will not put any effort to develop this. As long as you have this option, if something wrong, if something uncomfortable for me, if something I am not agree with, if something is not pleasing me, I will leave. As long as you have this option, you will not develop image of God. That's why God said divorce is not an option. Marriage is one man and one woman together forever. And I know all of us, we were married because we fall in love. And nobody thought about this idea, yeah, marry me because I want to help you to develop image of God in you. Like, no, I just fall in love with you and I want to be together. There is nothing wrong with it. This is good and this is right. This is something we're created by God for us. But he said there is something deeper. There is something more important. There is something that will help you to fall in love or to be in love with each other together forever. Because as more my wife looks like Jesus, as easier to live with her. I really agree. And it works the opposite as well. As more I develop myself, like develop image of God in myself, it's easier for my life to stay with me. God said you need to stick to each other with no other options, to help each other, to develop image of God I placed in you. You need to behave like this image of God in you. And as a result, it will be so much easier to love each other, to be with each other. But today, let me to go deeper, probably, I would say, and give you pretty, little bit wider explanation. What does it mean to have image of God? Or what does it mean, to be bearer of image of God? Because image of God, it's not just husband and wife together forever. Family, it is a place where we can develop or where we should to develop image of God. Not just husband and wife, but family in general is a place, or it is the perfect, or it's the only place where we can develop image of God in your children. And pretty much this is the idea I want to stick together with you. Because God placed children into the family, particularly with this only idea or this only purpose. So that parents help them to develop image of God in their nature. But also God placed children into the family to help them, to help their parents continue to develop and develop image of God in them. You know why? Because we married with my wife, and it took some time to used to each other, to discover each other. And we just thought we learned how to live together in happiness. And children were born. And we discovered there is much more to fix. There is much more. We need to come to agreement. There is much more to discuss and to build. And, at present day, I think you can ask my children, I think I can say this, that there is no other topic we argue with my wife but children, how to behave them. We do not argue about how to dress, how to spend money, where to go for vacation. The only topic we argue is how to behave children. Who was wrong, who was right, what is the right way to do, what is the wrong way to do something. This is the only topic. And children, they help us to continue to develop image of God in ourselves. That's why I say that the family is the perfect place God placed us to continue to develop image of God in us. So, I think we know these phrases that the wife is the keeper of hearth, family hearth keeper. Do you know this phrase? Probably no. Yeah, it's something old or somebody knows. There's other phrase from the Bible. Wise wife builds the house, right? So it's all about wife, right? So, but something about husbands, I don't remember. Probably nothing. Oh, there's one thing. God expects that fathers will be teachers, because it's their responsibility to behave or to teach their children. I don't know if you noted this or not in the book of Genesis. The very first God's expectation from Abraham as the father of great nation is that Abraham will teach as a father, he will teach his offspring. Genesis chapter 18, verse 17 and 18, the Lord said, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him? For I have chosen him that he may command his children," or you can translate this word, "to behave," or to teach his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice, so that the Lord may bring to Abraham what he has promised him. The very first expectations from God to Abraham as a father, it's to be teacher of his children. He said, this is the only purpose I chose Abraham, so he can become very good father as a teacher of his offspring. God expects from the parents, particularly from fathers, to be teachers or to help children to develop this image of God God placed in them. And that's why this word is very interesting. You know this from the Old Testament. Abraham fathered Isaac. Isaac fathered Jacob. And there is older word. He gave birth. So it looks like in Old Testament, fathers gave birth to their children. But I don't know if you noticed this. It's Genesis chapter 4. Yeah, Genesis chapter 4, verse 1. Now Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain and then Abel. Same thing, same very idea we can find in chapter 4, verse 25. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son and called his name Seth. But as soon as we turn page to chapter 5, there is something interesting we can find in verse 3. When Adam had lived 130 years, he fathered a son in his own likeness after his image. Because like this word fathered, like to give birth, to give life, physical life, it's mother's responsibility, or there's mother's destiny. But to father children, to give him or to transport them to the image of God, it's father's responsibility. God chose fathers to do this. It's our responsibility, fathers, to give God's or to develop image of God in our children. That's why we read that he fathered a son in his own likeness after his image. So there's like different topic we can preach, because God created man in his image after his likeness, but there is something wrong in this text. We read that he fathered the son in his own likeness and then image, because God created everything like opposite. He said, you already have image, you need to develop this, you need to behave like image placed in you. What Adam did, and every father after him, he behaves son and tries to create image. He behaves him, and this behavior shapes the image, because everything was opposite. God already gave image, and now you need to shape your behavior after this image. So it's a completely different topic and very interesting. We can preach, but today it's something different I want to get your attention to. So it's father's responsibility to teach, to behave their children, and this process of formation of new personality, of new character, goes through the, like when father gives or give teaching or history or culture or moral standards or a relationship with God or other things in this life. So, but I want to start with let's go in order. So we talk about image of God, and the very first place in the Bible or verse in the Bible we read about this image of God is Genesis chapter 1. God said, let's create man in our image. But let's talk about context. Let's talk about context when it was written, because it's very interesting. Book of Genesis, as other 4 books of Moses, like Torah, was written by Moses in a period of time of formation, offspring of Abraham, into a nation. Into a nation God want to use to bless all people around. But when Moses led people from Egypt, he has not organized strong army of God Almighty. He had crowd of yesterday's slaves. There is no nation. There are slaves with broken heart and spirit and minds. This is the context because, propaganda, it's not something were created by communists in Soviet Union in the 30s, 20s of the last, 20th century. It's something was very good developed in the ancient Egypt as well, because according to their culture or teaching or religion, the only bearer of image of God was the king, period. He was reincarnation of God. He is a God by himself on this earth. The only bearer of image of God was the king. Second level were priests. There is a less image of God than lords and this social pyramid. And at the very bottom of this social pyramid were Jewish slaves. And they had zero chance to have little piece of God's image. Why? Because they're not even Egyptians. They're absolutely foreign nation. And they have no connection with the king, and that's why they're not children of Egypt's king, and that's why they have zero chance to have God's image in them. They're slaves. It's their destiny. And 4 centuries in the row, children of Israelites were taught that they are slaves. There's the lowest social class, and that's why they're slaves. This is their destiny in their life. And when Moses came to them, it's very interesting. When Moses came to them and said, God sent me to make you free. God sent me to fulfill the promise. Exodus chapter 6, verse 9. Moses spoke those to the people of Israel, but they did not listen to Moses because of their broken spirit and harsh slavery. This is how they were destroyed in their minds. And God chose these people. God took these people, crowd of slaves, with this idea to create strong, blessed nation, to be an example and blessings for all nations around. And God starts with very core, with the very basic idea that every person on the face of earth is bearer of image of God. Every person created in the image of God. And you need to develop this image. He talks about preciousness of human life. He talks about equality. He talks about how to respect a human's life. All these principles of human's life in this idea of image of God. And God chose family as a place, as the best and the only place to develop these principles. This is how Torah ends, like 5th book of Moses, Deuteronomy, when Moses give his last teaching to Israelites. He starts with this: teach your children, teach your children, develop your children. That's why Institute of Family is so attacked today. It were attacked then 3,000-4,000 years ago. Because I don't know if you're familiar with this story of Exodus, 10 pledges, not plagues. Thank you, 10 plagues in Egypt. Pharaoh, he hardened his heart. He didn't want to let people go, Israelites go. And very first time when he agreed, said, okay, I'll let you go, he said, but your children will stay. He attacks family. The very first attack, it's against family. You, man, you can go, but we will take care of your children. Let them stay here. We will keep them safe. We will teach him. We will behave him. Don't worry, leave them with us. You can go. Nothing's changed 4,000 years after. This is something we have in modern world. Modern context did not change. 100 years ago, Communist Party tried to destroy the family. Is that unit family? And this is by the way, this is the context when we got this phrase, civil marriage. Yeah? This phrase, I think so. It's from communists. They said, well, you don't need to be in marriage to have sex or to have this relationship with each other. And children, they belong to government. All children are mutual. Don't worry about. At the result, we got hundreds of thousands of children, orphans, who filled cities with the crime, behaved without parents, without father, without mother. Today nobody destroys the family. People in this modern world, they just changed the meaning of this word family, what family is. So let's talk about family, because in the beginning was different. God thought about and he created a family where is one father, male, where is one mother, female, together to develop their children, to develop image of God in their children. So let's talk about this thing, how to behave your children. I know here is a lot of young people, but I think you need to know this because, I regret that 20 years ago, nobody taught me how to be a parent, what marriage is. So let's talk about these principles, how to behave your children. First thing which can help you or should help you is when you teach your children that you are unique creation of God and you're priceless. You're unique and your price is very high. You're precious in God's eyes. Why? Because you have image of God. And in this principle of image of God, we have this principle of preciousness of human's life and respect to each other. This principle teaches us how to respect human life. And the generation behaved in this atmosphere, never will start war. Because they taught to respect. And they know the price of human life. And especially when your children, teenagers, when they have these things with their skin, where their body may be a little bit different, or wrong shape, where when their voice is broken, and when there's a lot of bullying in school and things like this, you need to teach them you are creation of God. You are bearer of image of God. Your life is precious in God's eyes. How precious? 1 Corinthians 7, 23 and 24. You were bought with a price. You were bought with a price. Do not become bondservants of men. Bullying, it's not something that should form you. Do not become bondservants of men. So, brothers, in whatever condition each was called, there let him remain with God. You were bought with a price. In previous chapter, chapter 6, Paul said, you were bought with the price, so glorify God with your souls and with your bodies. Teach your children that they are unique and precious creation of God. Second, we need to teach them about gender. May I say, like gender belongingness? Did I create just a new word? I don't know, but hear me what I want to say. We need to teach our children that there's just two genders, male and female. There is no third gender. There is nothing else, and you are or male or you're female. There is nothing. There is no third option. It's not question of your choice. I choose to be male, or I choose to be female, or I choose to be cat or something or somebody else. It's not a question of your choice. It's a question of your acceptance what God created you. Because Psalm 139 verse 13 said, "For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb." God chose your gender. There is nothing to be cut or to be added to you. Because it's not about your choice. It's nothing about nature mistake or how do you feel or how do you accept you. It's about when you was in mother's womb, at that time God already gave you everything you need. He added or he cut everything he thought will be right for you. There's nothing to add, there's nothing to cut, because God formed my inwards parts. Your gender was predestined by God. Period. Teach your children. It's not about choice. It's about to accept what God created you, because they are image of God. You formed me. God formed me, my inwards. But I think it's one of the boldest theological verses in the modern world. We need to preach. All your inwards already formed by God, not by people, not by surgery or something else. Accept who God created you to be. You know, about like behavior, how to behave, how to raise your children, we can talk like on and on. There's a lot of principles, and we have no time enough like to talk about. But right now, I just want to focus our attention what helps me to behave children in the right way. What helps me to develop in them this image of God? First of all, I need to acknowledge the purpose. As a parent, as a father, or you're the mother, you need to acknowledge the purpose. God gave you children, and your children not belong to you. If they're a spirit, government is agree with me. Who said, like, I think Biden said that all children, like, it belongs to us. We all, like, they're our children. Our children belong to government, right? We pay for their education. We forgive their student loans. Yeah, we take care of you. You are our children, but it's not right. My children is not mine, and more of this, they are not belong to government. They belong to God. And God entrusted me with children so I can create environment in what they can develop in them image of God. My children not belong to me, they belong to God, and I am responsible in front of God of my children. It's wrong when you behave your children to yourself. So when you become old man, there is somebody who will take care of you. Wrong, it's selfish purpose. And when you behave children with the selfish purpose, guess what? They become selfish. Why? Because you behave them in selfish way. You behave them with the selfish purpose. And as a result, you have selfish generation. They don't care about old people. They don't care about their parents. Why? Because this is the way they were behaved. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing to expect, something other to expect, because it's not right to behave children for yourself. You know, sometimes parents try to realize their unfulfilled dreams, child's dreams, in their children. For example, as a child, you had dream about like a toy. I don't know, maybe Lego or this helicopter, like remote helicopter. And finally, you become a father. Finally, you get a job. Finally, you're independent. You don't need nobody to ask. You have no need to ask somebody like approval to buy this. And you buy this helicopter for your child. And his reaction just disappoints you. Like, what? Oh, my childhood, I dreamed about this, and your reaction is just like not, not think-giving person. Like, you're not great. You're not great. Why? Because it's your dream, it's not his dream. This helicopter. Do not try to fulfill your dreams in your children. You will be disappointed. Because you need to fulfill God's dream in your children. Because your children were entrusted to you by God for a period of time, so you can help them to develop these principles of God's image in them. Second thing, what helps me to behave my children in the right way, it's methods. Because anger and scream, and when you try to make them guilt and scare them, it's one way, or you can try to behave them with love. Because in this world, there's just two strongest tools help to build a relationship with people. Fear or love. And fear, it's something that works immediately, right? I know this from my experience. Not from my father to me, but from me to my children. You patiently try to talk to them, and they argue with you, like, how dare you like to argue with me? Who you are? And they're like, okay, I behave. It works immediately. Like you can talk to them like for hours, try to explain what is right, what is wrong, and they argue with you like, what's going on? What the heck? Yeah. Immediately. But as soon as they behave, obey you, next second, they disobey. And there's much longer way to behave them. It's love and respect. And you need to respect your children, not because they deserve this, not because they already old enough, but only because they are bearer of image of God. You respect not their behavior, you respect not their reaction, not that they argue or they obey you, you respect image of God in them. And through this respect, you develop this image of God. Through this respect, you help them to develop this image of God. So methods matter. But it will happen only if I remember that they are image of God. They are image of God. Third thing, what helps me to behave or should help me to behave my children is an acknowledgement of a result or the purpose. Because we behave our children, we try to give them education so they can become managers or, owners of presidents of the companies, successful businessmen or businesswoman or somebody else in their future life, but to be a family. But this is something, the only what is right and matter. In the modern world, we stopped to behave our children to become a family. And it sounds weird when when somebody teach their son, one day you will be father. One day you will become a husband. Come on, it's too old, sounds. One day you'll become a mother. One day you will become a wife, and you'll belong to one man forever. But this is what we need to behave our children for, because God created us to be a family, not a businessman, not a teacher, not like somebody else. He created us for this purpose, to be a family. You know, and there's indicator how I can check or how I can see the way or the success of the way I behave my children. So it's, well, I know I preach against myself because my children are here. But I'm not preaching my life, I preach Bible. So Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4, fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. There's just two results: anger or discipline. And I can try to explain as many times as I want. Like, it's about society, that's about bullying, it's about wrong people he deal with or something else. God said, fathers, it's your responsibility. And the way you behave your children, there's just two results: their anger or their obedience, nothing else. The way you talk to them brings anger or brings obedience. And it's my responsibility, it's my fault, or it's my success. As many as I want, I can try to explain something, but there's just two indicators: anger or obedience. And you know, then I want to say I can talk about and I teach my children with my words as long as I want, but the only thing they will, the only thing they will follow, it's my example, my personal example. And this principle I want to separate. I just want to show from the Bible the power of influence fathers have on their children. No matter what you say, no matter what you teach, they will follow your example. So I want to read this. It will be a pretty big passage from the Bible. Sorry, in advance, sorry for grammar mistakes I can make, but still. It's book of Hosea, thank you. You see, first mistake. Book of Hosea, chapter 4, verses from 12 to 14. God said, my people inquire of a piece of wood, and their walking staff give them oracles. For a spirit of whoredom has led them astray, and they have left their God to play the whore. They sacrifice on the tops of the mountains and burn offerings on the hills under oak, poplar, and terebinth, because their shade is good. Therefore, your daughters play the whore, and your brides commit adultery. I will not punish your daughters when they play the whore, nor your brides when they commit adultery. For the men themselves go aside with prostitutes, and sacrifice with cult prostitutes, and a people without understanding shall come to ruin. God said, your daughters play whores, and they're in adultery. But I will not punish them. You know why? Because this behavior, they behave this way because of you. Every daughter, the first man in her life is her father. It's her example. It's her hero. She wants to please him. She wants him to like her. She wants to behave in the way he likes. And God said, because you love adultery, because you like to spend time with prostitutes, because you like to play with whores, your daughters will become the same. They will play whores, they will be as a prostitute, because they want you to like them. They want to please you. And the only reason they behave this way is you. You like to spend time this way. And maybe we will not become a prostitute in a professional basis, but the way they think, the way they spend time, these clubs, I don't know, like parties and things like this, these low moral standards, fathers, God said it's your responsibility. Because they behave as you like. And we can complain about the young generation, about their outfit, their the way they dress, the way they behave, as much as we can. But they behave as we like. They want to please us. And God said, I will not punish them because their behavior, it's your responsibility. Fathers, we have huge 100% influence on the way our children will behave. Second passage is the book of Malachi, chapter 2, verse 13 to 15. And this second thing you do, you cover the Lord's altar with tears, with weeping and groaning, because he no longer regards the offering or accepts it with favor from your hand. But you say, why does he not? Because the Lord was a witness between you and the wife of your youth, to whom you have been faithless, though she is your companion and your wife by covenant. Did he not make them one with a portion of the Spirit in their union? And what was the one God seeking? Godly offspring. Godly offspring. So guard yourself in your spirit, and let none of you be faithless to the wife of your youth. God said, I do care about your marriage. I do care about your relationship, about your union, about your covenant. Why? Because I created this for one purpose: godly offspring. And the only environment this godly offspring can be developed is family, is marriage of one man as a husband and one woman as a wife, together forever, through all problems, through all difficulties, sickness, poverty, happiness, sorrow, something else, through everything. Go together forever, united. God said, this is environment. I placed portion of my spirit in their union. Why? Only because of godly offspring. That's why we have families. And God wants us to develop, to steward our families in the right way, to create environment for our children, to help them to develop image of God in them and through them. Amen. Let's pray.